It's the most iconic scene in all of cartoon history. Lisa Van Pelt holds out that football for Charlie Brown and essentially asks him, "Come on, Charlie Brown, why don't you kick the football?" Now, Charlie Brown's not an idiot. He knows that as soon as he goes to kick that football, Lisa's just going to pull it away from him. Yet Lisa's convincing. And eventually, she gets Charlie Brown to go, run after that football, and eventually, Charlie Brown winds up flat on his back once again. The cycle of trying the same thing over and over and over again, and yet ultimately not accomplishing much, is unfortunately the state of negotiations between the United Kingdom and the European Union as it pertains to Brexit. The two entities have met repeatedly over the last 4 years to try and get a deal done for Brexit, and yet time and time and time again, they've failed to actually come to an agreement on what exactly that deal would look like. And even right now, the time of recording this video, a deal has yet to be reached. Now, the ramifications of Brexit are very profound for both the United Kingdom and the European Union, and it's important that we understand exactly what those ramifications are here in the United States, because what happens in the United Kingdom and in the European Union as it pertains to their economy, since they are major trading partners of the United States, will inevitably have some spillover into our economy. And thus, it's important that we ask the question, will Brexit be a success for the citizens of the UK? And the answer to that is unfortunately no. For one, Brexit has already caused harm to the economy due to its uncertainty. Number two, it's projected to cause even more harm in the long run. And third and finally, it'll harm national unity for the United Kingdom. So first, let's understand that Brexit negotiations have already caused a substantial amount of harm, even as they're continuing to go on. As the BBC reports on December 18th, two major points of contention are still fishing rights and how exactly a deal will be enforced. And these 2 points of contention are a lot better than what had previously been up for contention, such as an Irish backstop. Progress has been made, but a deal hasn't actually been agreed upon. And unfortunately, this simply isn't enough certainty for businesses. Since the Brexit referendum took place in 2016, businesses and corporations have had to exist for 4 years now, with the uncertainty as to whether a Brexit deal will actually get passed and what that Brexit deal will look like. And as a result of that uncertainty, they're a lot less likely, and have been a lot less likely, to invest in the British economy. And in fact, the Rand Corporation did a study on November 15th and found that the United Kingdom's GDP is 0.17 percentage points lower than it otherwise would have been had the United Kingdom simply decided to remain in the European Union. And thus, Britain has already lost off on thousands of jobs and a lot of national income that they would have otherwise had they simply decided to remain in the European Union and had they avoided these long Brexit negotiations that have left a lot of uncertainty for business investment. Beyond that, beyond the initial harm that it's already caused, we also have to understand that Brexit is going to cause a lot of economic harm in the long run because it's going to mean that the United Kingdom can trade less with the European Union. And this leads me to my second point, which is simply that economic harm for the people of the United Kingdom. That Rand Corporation study that I previously mentioned found that the United Kingdom isn't able to make up its loss of trade with the European Union with other countries. The relationship that it had with the European Union is unique, and it's not something that is easily replicable, at least not in the short term, with any other country around the world. So while pro-Brexit politicians might try and claim that Brexit ultimately won't hurt the British economy, those projections don't look to be true. And in fact, the London School of Economics found on December 1st that Brexit will result in a decline in 6% of the national income, which amounts to around $2,000 per individual. And this is a substantial amount for just about every individual around, and it also means that the government will have less money to fund essential programs such as the National Health Service or education programs. And as a result of that, life is simply going to be worse for citizens of the United Kingdom. There's no other way around it. Brexit will harm the economy of the UK, and as a result of that, its citizens are going to suffer. This is just unequivocal from the projections that we've already seen. The trade that the UK had with the European Union can't be replicated elsewhere. But beyond the economic impacts that Brexit has already had and will have in the future, you have to understand that it'll harm the national dynamics that currently exist in the United Kingdom. As the BBC reports on December 15th, Scottish independence has been gaining traction as Brexit negotiations have gone on. Now, in the 2016 referendum, Scotland overwhelmingly voted to remain in the European Union. And as a result of that, the people of Scotland are rather resentful that the United Kingdom is, as a whole, leaving the European Union. Now, there was a referendum in 2014, but as Business Insider explains, on October 31st, a large reason why Scotland decided to remain in the United Kingdom at that time was because they wanted to remain in the European Union as well. Yet, since the United Kingdom is no longer remaining in the European Union, that provides a great incentive for even those people that voted to stay in 2014 to change their votes and vote for Scottish independence. And thus, it's very likely that the momentum for Scottish independence will continue to grow, that potentially Scotland will leave the United Kingdom, which would be a massive blow to that country's national unity and also to its economy. And beyond that, Brexit simply isn't very popular no matter who you're asking or in what part of the country you're asking. As Reuters explains on October 15th, recent polls have indicated that Brexit is only supported by around 39% of people, which means that a large percentage of the country is resentful of the fact that Brexit negotiations are even ongoing and the United Kingdom is going to leave the European Union in the first place. So, as a whole, we see that Brexit has already caused substantial economic harm to the British economy, but it's going to cause even more harm once Brexit actually occurs. And beyond that, it is going to harm the unity of the United Kingdom and potentially lead to Scottish independence. And if we look at all of these reasons, we can see that futility of those negotiations between the United Kingdom and the European Union, unfortunately, they appear as though they're going to wind up with Charlie Brown flat on his back once again. Thank you.